It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good Saturday afternoon. Hope you're having a great Saturday and the beginning of spring break. So, for all of you that are packing up, getting ready to leave town, we hope that you have a great spring break and also hope that you just have a safe spring break. So, pay attention out there as you travel. A lot of people will be on the road this next week. And so, just please be careful if you will. Don't forget the Hogs play tonight. And so, we just want to support them, make sure that we get them up to the next level of the dance. So, remember that the game is tonight. Today, we've got a very special show. We're going to take a break from politics, and we are going to talk about something that happened this past week at the Capitol that just really struck me as something that I think and hope that you would be interested in because of the significance associated with it. This past Thursday and Friday, we were honored to have the tomb of the unknown soldier replica, and very fortunate to have in studio today Bill King, who is from Rome, Georgia. He is with a call to honor the tomb of the unknown replica. And Bill, thank you very much for taking time out to be on the Kim Hammer Show today.
Our pleasure and our honor to be a part of it.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Let's get right into it. So first of all, you're from Rome, Georgia. Tell a little bit about yourself, if you will. And then as you tell about yourself, just kind of lead up into how it is that you got involved with the call to honor. I know you've served in the military before, so just so people get a little comfortable and get to know you, go ahead and share about yourself.
Thank you. I am a native Roman, born and raised in Rome. The only time I wasn't living there was when I was within the military. I was with the Navy show band for 4 years, and then I came out. They did not have a reserve band, so I went with the Air National Guard program, which did have one, and went into that as a bass trombone player, which I had done with the Navy band. And then the commander retired, and then I was asked to take over as commander and was for the next 18 years. Total service time of about 22 to 23 years. My son's a graduate of the Air Force Academy, and he's still in. He's been in for 15.
Very good.
He's over in Texas, commander of the 344th Technical Training Squadron. And when I got out of the military, I was also a teacher while I was with the reserve unit or the Air Guard unit. I taught for 37 years as a band director in different school systems in Georgia. And then I wanted to get involved with the community organization. And I was really drawn to the Exchange Club because of their Americanism Committee. And so I joined that in 2014. And in 2015, we were awarded the National Award for Americanism projects within the Exchange Club program. And we had recreated the 32 by 40 foot flag that had flown at Fort McHenry during the battle there at 1814. And it won the national award. And the next year I took over as the director of the Americanism Committee, or chairman of that. And immediately 3 of us were standing at the base of that flagpole, and we said, what can we do to beat this project that would be one that people would enjoy, not only in our area, but nationwide? And we immediately thought of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier because of last year being the centennial year. So we invited a tomb guard that lives in Georgia to come speak at our club. And he saw the tomb. And he said, you guys have got to be part of our program to get ready for the centennial. Would you be willing to be our educational arm to teach people about why we even have the Tomb of the Unknown and what it is all about, and get people ready for the centennial? And we gladly jumped on that. And what was to be a 1-year project has now turned into a 5-year on the road. And we're glad because it has been tremendous everywhere we've been. Where we showed it here this past Thursday and Friday, we've had good crowds. We've had just a tremendous time being sponsored in here by the DAR, Daughters of the American Revolution. And I want to tell y'all have a beautiful state capitol. The rotunda where we showed it is just fabulous.
It is. I've not seen many other state capitals, but the ones I've seen have paled in comparison to ours. And people just need to get out, and I won't call out any states of which I've seen theirs in. But yes, we have a beautiful state capitol.
And the rotunda where we were is just absolutely a perfect place for it.
Yeah. So to talk for a minute, and I was hoping to get the director of the Daughter of the American Revolution on. I pastor a church, and I've got several members that are members. In fact, one was at the ceremony Thursday.
Yes.
And she was the one that Sonia Swinson had
Oh, yeah.
invited me to be there. And so, anyway, but they've got a conference or something going on.
This is their state conference.
That's
here.
their state conference.
Yeah.
Talk about them just a little bit as far as your involvement with them, or did they just host you into the state, or what was the connection that you had between them and your organization to get here?
The amazing thing about our exhibit is we've never had to ask to go anywhere. We have been working with the DAR ever since we've been on the road. A number of their organizations across the country have invited us to come in for one reason or another, and they just do it right. I mean, they are phenomenal.
Mm-hmm.
And they asked us a few months ago about coming this past Thursday and Friday, and we jumped on it because when you work with DAR, you don't have to worry about anything being done correctly. They do it right.
Yeah, it was a smooth transition or a smooth presentation of the day. And I got to do something here. I want to give a shout out to Shirley Kopic because she's a member of the DAR, a member of my church. If I don't, I might get in trouble. So, Miss Shirley, you too, okay? So anyway, yes, it was very tastefully and respectfully done the other day. Had the ROTC from Cabot.
Oh, they were phenomenal. Color guard, honor guard. They just did a great job. They really did.
You talk about in step and perfect sound and unison as they came in, and to the rotunda and the way they presented the flags, the colors. They were snapping that day.
Well, I understand that they had asked another high school prior to them, not knowing their reputation of having that really fine color guard, and that school told them, if it's going to be for something like that, you need to call them.
Yeah,
That's a pretty good compliment.
Yeah. Representative Brian Evans and Senator Ricky Hill were there, and they represent the Cabot area. And let me tell you, their chests were pumped out, buddy.
And they had every reason to, because we've seen a lot of color guards, both military, active military, and they looked as good, if not better, than some of them. They were well prepared.
Well, when they came in, I thought, well, I wonder if they got them from Camp Robinson or where. And then as things developed, I realized it was Cabot's ROTC. You couldn't distinguish the difference. So kudos to them that they did such an outstanding job. And
they're going to be in the 4th of July Independence Day parade in Washington, D.C.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That is cool. All right. Representative Evans and Senator Ricky Hill, just their heads are popping by now if they're listening. So, anyway, congratulations to them. All right. So the idea of this started back in 2014. Did I understand that right?
Actually, it did. We actually started planning to do this as soon as we received the award from the Exchange Club National for our flag that we gave the city, and they fly it on all patriotic days. They built a 100-foot flagpole on top of one of our tallest hills. You can see it from all over Rome.
That's cool.
And we said, we got to do something that can top this. And immediately, because I'd worked at Washington with the Navy band, why not go with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, because it's going to be the 100th anniversary in 2021. And we knew it's going to take some time to get it built and have it done the right way.
Okay, tell you what, let's do. Let's go back to the beginning.
Sure.
And then we're going to work our way up to the replica, because you've got a real in-depth knowledge of the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier. And we had hoped to have the guard on that is escorting, but time did not allow, with the travel arrangements and everything. But I know that you have a soldier who had served there. In fact, I put something up on my Facebook page about it, and I started getting messages from individuals that said, I served as a soldier that walked. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to take it back to the very beginning.
Sure.
When the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier was first started, the original. Go all the way back to the beginning and give us the history up through this time, because you shared some really interesting stuff the other day.
Sure. Back in 1920, a congressman by the name of Hamilton Fish, who was a World War I veteran as well as a congressman, came up with the idea we need to do something to recognize and honor those that gave more than just their lives, but also their identity for this country. And so he proposed a movement to fund the building of the tomb. On March the 4th of 1921, Congress passed legislation to appropriate the funds to build the tomb. And it was to be built on the plaza of the Memorial Amphitheater, which had just been completed at that time. It passed, it got the president's approval, and they immediately got the architects to come up with the idea of what it was going to look like, and at the same time gave the directive of come up with a plan on how to select the one individual that would be placed in the tomb to represent all of our unknowns from World War I. Well, by 1921, we had created 4 American military cemeteries in France. So the idea came up of sending a exhumation team to each of those cemeteries with the instructions to exhume the remains of one unknown soldier from each of those cemeteries. And they took the remains out of the coffins they had been buried in and placed them in 4 identical white caskets. Took them to a little town called Chalon-de-Sous-Marne, to the building that houses both the Hotel de Ville and the City Hall. Placed them in a room there, mixed the caskets up so nobody would even know which cemetery they would have come from. One of the members of the exhumation team was a Sergeant Edward J. Younger, who had served in World War I, highly decorated. But they didn't choose him for that reason. He was on the exhumation team, and his name was drawn at random.
Oh, wow.
And so he was given a spray of white roses and asked to go in the room where the caskets were and place the spray on one of the 4 caskets to choose our unknown soldier, the one that would be representative of all of them. He went in, circled the caskets about 3 times, and stopped just before he started the 4th circle and said, I felt compelled to place the spray on the 3rd casket from the left, and that was our unknown soldier. Well, what do you do with the other 3 that weren't chosen? Because we don't even know which cemetery they came from. They chose to take the 3 back to the Meuse-Argonne Cemetery, which is one of those 4, and they reburied them there, and they're still there resting with their comrades. The one that was chosen was then placed on a caisson, horse-drawn caisson, taken to the local train station, placed on the train. The train went down to Port Le Havre, where they were then placed on another caisson and taken to the ship, the Uss Olympia. Now, USS Olympia was the flagship of Admiral Dewey during the Philippine struggle. Well, that ship was going to be decommissioned, so its last orders were to transport the body to Washington.
That gives you goosebumps right there thinking about that.
Yes. And they apparently didn't do a whole lot of checking about the size of the casket as opposed to the size of the hatches. It couldn't be put inside the ship because it was too big. The plans were to have it in the officers' mess and guarded 24/7 during the transport by the Marines. Well, because they couldn't get the casket in, they couldn't change ships because that ship had to be the one to bring it back. So the captain said, we're going to lash it to the deck. So they had to build a little construction area so it could be lashed to the deck to prevent it from being, washed overboard.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they lashed it to that. And then the Marines said, well, we still have to guard it. We can't leave it unguarded. We will not leave it unguarded. So they lashed 2 Marines to the railing every 2 hours. Another 2 Marines would come out. The ones that were coming on duty would unlash the ones that were tied to the railing, and the ones that were coming off would then tie the ones coming on.
How long of a trip was that across? Because you were talking about what they would have had to have experienced coming across like that.
They left on October the 25th, I believe, of 1921, and they arrived in Washington at what is now the Naval Yard at Washington. At that time was called the Gun Factory, on November the 9th. So it was about a 2-week trip across the ocean, and they did get hit by a hurricane. Water was coming over the ship. The ship took 39-degree rolls in both directions. Nobody was lost. Nobody was killed. Nobody was hurt. But the Marines just got soaking wet.
Yeah.
Now, so the casket was protected. They built a wooden box to put the casket in and then covered that with canvas and then lashed it to the deck with very thick ropes. It arrived on the morning of the 9th of November, 1921, and then was taken by caisson up to the Capitol to lie in state in the rotunda. It stayed there until the morning of the 11th of November, which at that time, it was not called Veterans Day, it was Armistice Day. the day that the surrender 3 years earlier had happened. And so they took it to the Capitol. It stayed there till that morning of the 11th. Then it went by caisson up to the Memorial Amphitheater, where the president presided over the burial service. And then it was buried there at the Capitol. At the cemetery at Arlington. And the original tomb did not look like what you see over in the rotunda when we had it on display. It was a very flat top, and it was only about maybe a foot tall. That upper part was not added until 1931, 10 years later. In fact, when the tomb was first up there and he was buried, for the first 4 years, it was not even guarded or marked as the tomb of the unknown soldier. And some people were literally not knowing what it was, thought it was a nice place to have a picnic lunch, and they actually had picnic lunches on the top of the tomb. Well, yeah, that stopped pretty quick.
I was going to say shortly thereafter it started getting guarded.
Well, it got guarded first by civilian guards, one guard, and he would be there from the time the cemetery opened until it closed. Then in 1927, I believe it was, they formed a sort of paramilitary group, just one military person at a time standing there, keeping people off of it. Wasn't the old guard that we know now. In 1931, they decided that the Army would guard it, but it still wasn't called the old guard. It still didn't have the prestige it has now to guard the tomb, because they still didn't guard it 24/7. That didn't start until 1937. 1937, it started being guarded 24/7. But the old guard officially didn't take it over until 1948. And then once they started, it's been guarded 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, even through the most difficult weather situations, including a hurricane that went through. They refused to step down and get under cover, even though they were given the right to do so. They said, we do not leave them unguarded.
Incredible, undescribable dedication.
It is. It really is. And we've had the privilege of having former tomb guards at all of our shows all across the nation, because to them, it's still an honor to even be there at the replicas, because it does cause them to reflect on their actual time at the tomb.
How many of well, let me back up, and before we get to that question, let me back up. During the period of which it arrived, given the significance and the effort that went into picking the one soldier, and then the fact that it was guarded in the manner which it was guarded coming across,
right?
Why did it take so long for it to get the prestigious recognition of guarding it the way it is now, that it was just brought over and buried and nobody guarded it through that era? Do we know?
We just didn't understand. I don't think they really understood how popular that was going to be with the people, because the security levels have changed over the years. In the early years, you used to be able to get right up next to the mat where the guards walk. You could go all the way around the tomb. But even the tomb guards will tell you they are not allowed to touch the tomb. And so nobody else should. So as years have gone by and security has had to be increased, even the front side of the tomb, which faces Washington, the back of the tomb is what people see when they go to see the tomb of the unknown soldier. That's the back of the tomb. It's guarded from the back. The mat that the guard walks on is on the back side of the tomb. People used to be able to go all the way around the tomb. And they decided that we just can't have that. We can't take a chance on somebody doing some damage to it. So that's why they decided that it needed the prestige of being what is now considered the most hallowed ground in the United States.
So the placement and the choice of the placement, talk about it. Why did it end up where it is?
The plaza in front of the Memorial Amphitheater, where they hold the ceremonies on Memorial Day and on Veterans Day, it has a place on the front side of it where they actually do the service, and the caskets are up there during the service, and then they're taken down to the plaza, and then they're buried. The reason they chose that was because the plaza is set up in such a way they could place those and still have room for the guard to be able to walk and for any official ceremonies that require a full band to be there when visiting heads of state want to lay a wreath at the tomb. And of course, World War I was called the war to end all wars, so they thought that would be the only time they'd have to do this. And that answers another question we always get. Why did the World War II and the Korean and the Vietnam unknowns not get a tomb of the same size? There's no room to put that many on there and still have room to do the ceremonies that they do. So they agreed to do crypts located directly behind the tomb. So as you're looking at the tomb from the steps of the amphitheater, in behind and to the left of the tomb is where the Korean unknown crypt is. And then on the far right-hand side was World War II, because they were buried at the same time in 1958. It wasn't until 1958 that they honored World War II and Korea unknown at the same time, with President Eisenhower presiding over the burial and awarding them the Medal of Honor, the same as the World War I unknown had been given the Medal of Honor for being the unknown. And then when Vietnam was to be buried, the most logical place was right in between World War II, Korea and World War II. So he's in the middle, but he's not there now because he was identified in 1998, and they did not replace him with another body because there was not another unknown.
Okay. So take it up to the requirements. Let's talk about you. Now we're fast forward. We're where it's going to be guarded 24/7.
Right.
Talk about the requirements of what it takes in order to be the soldier or soldiers that are chosen or have earned the right, whatever you straighten me out, proper terminology, to have that privilege.
Well, they definitely have to earn it. They have to be members of the 3rd Infantry Regiment, which is the Old Guard. And that's divided into 4 battalions. One is the guards themselves that guard the tomb. Another one is the ones that do the caissons. Another one is the ones that man the cannons that do the 21-gun salute on, very formal ceremonies at either at the White House or at Arlington or somewhere in downtown Washington. And the 4th battalion would be the ones that are the pallbearers and the ones that shoot the rifles, the 21-gun salute. And to be in the tomb guard, first you have to be in that infantry regiment, the 3rd Infantry Regiment. You volunteer to try out to be a guard. You meet the sergeant of the guard at 5 o'clock in the morning one morning when they say they're going to have a time to replace some guards that are having to leave for one reason or the other. And he does a very, very blunt presentation that one of the first statements he says, if you are married, when you try out for the guard, and if you make it, you're married to the tomb first and your wife second.
Probably cut out a lot of them right there.
And there's usually about 100 to 125 volunteers that are there for that. And for some of them, that's the first time they've ever seen the changing of the guard, even though they've been stationed up there. So he goes through the whole spiel of what they're going to have to do, how long it's going to be, and that badge you're going for is the second most sought-after badge in the entire military, not just the Army, but the entire military, because the only one that's more prestigious than that is that of the astronaut.
Wow.
But the badge that the tomb guards get is the only badge in the military that can be taken away at any time in their life if they do anything to dishonor the tomb, himself or herself, now that we've had 5 or 6 ladies that have qualified, or anything that dishonors the tomb or the unknown soldier.
And that is whether they're on duty or off duty.
Or whether they're in the military or not, even after they've served. If they ever get word that they've done something of that level, that badge will be taken away, their name will be taken off the permanent badge board under the number of that badge, and one word's put in place of their name, revoked. And that badge is never given out again.
Hang on a second. Got to take a break. We come back. We're going to continue the discussion. In studio today is my guest, Bill King, who is from Rome, Georgia. He is with a call to honor tomb of the Unknown Replica, which we as a state were blessed to have this past week, Thursday and Friday, on display in the rotunda at the Capitol, and with the assistance of the Daughters of the American Revolution, which we're very appreciative for their involvement in this. We're going to take a break and come back to the Kim Hammer Show and continue our discussion. Hey, welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show. Thank you for joining me today on this great Saturday. My guest today in studio is Bill King, in case you're just joining us. He is with a call to honor the tomb of the unknown replica, the tomb of the unknown soldier replica. You can go up to my Facebook page, which is www.thekimhammershow.com, www. The Kim Hammer Show. No, I've not been drinking. TheKimHammershow.com. And you can catch this. You can catch this again if you want to, or go up to the blog and get it. You want to share it. I tell you what, this ought to be worth 3 credits if you're in a college course. You're probably going to learn more sitting here for an hour than you would if you went to college about this stuff. So, all right, enough with the rambling. Let's get back to it because we got a lot of stuff still to cover. All right, so the process to become one of the guards that walks and serves or protects. Go forward where you were, which was the removing of the badge and the word revoked, which I think that would just be so totally, I wouldn't want that to be what I was remembered for.
Well, they've since they started giving the badge in 1958, there have been close to 700 badges awarded. That sounds like a lot, but if you consider how many years that is, that's not. That's how hard it is to get the badge. But 18 so far have been revoked.
Wow.
But that meeting I was telling you about at 5 o'clock in the morning, for those that want to try out and they hear the sergeant of the guard give his spiel to them, at the end of his spiel, and on one particular class, I can use their class as an example of how difficult it is. He tells the 125 that actually showed up to try out, if you're interested in continuing this path toward becoming a tomb guard, see me at such and such day at 5 o'clock, and you'll start your 2-week TDY to find out in depth what you're going to be going through. Out of that 125, 12 showed up.
Oh, wow.
And then they started their 2-week TDY, in which they actually start their training for the trainers, which have their badge already, because they're responsible for training the new guys as well as doing their duty as a tomb guard. They're told they have to bring all their uniforms every day of the 2-week TDY because they haven't earned the right to put them in a locker yet. So they have to bring 4 sets of clothing with them every day. That starts it off. At the end of that 2 weeks, they were down to 8. Then they start their official training, which lasts anywhere from 6 to 9 months. They are tested over that 6 to 9 months over 3 basic items. Number 1, their uniform appearance. Number 2, their knowledge that they have to learn. And 3, their performance outside on the mat. Now, if you're a trainee, you don't see the light of day out on the plaza because you got to learn everything there is to learn about how to do that before they're going to put you out there. But I'm going to start with the uniform. They're issued, I believe it's 2 winter dress blue uniforms that they have to wear year-round when they're guarding the tomb, regardless of the temperature. Now, imagine a wool winter dress blue in the middle of the summer in Washington, D.C. Okay? They have to take that uniform that they're given at Fort Myer, which is where the 3rd Infantry is headquartered right there above the cemetery. They have to take that uniform and undo the stitching and redo the lining themselves. They can't market it out. They have to do it themselves. And their trainers show them how to do it. Then they have to re-stitch it back in after they put the different lining in that they are expected to use. Then they have to place every item that goes on that uniform within 1/64th of an inch of where it's supposed to be. And when they've reached the point where they can wear that uniform and guard the tomb on the mat, that's inspected every time they go up with a micrometer to within 1/64th of an inch of where it's supposed to be. And they're only allowed 4 mistakes. If they make 4, they can't go up until it's corrected. You and I would never see that,
No.
but that's the level that's expected.
Let me ask you, I think I know the answer to it, but let me ask you it anyway. The reasoning, why the demand, why the attention to details like that there is no room for forgiveness, there is no room for error and very little forgiveness?
Very, very quick answer, and it's the only answer. Line 6 of the Sentinel's Creed, which says, "My standard will remain perfection."
Okay.
That's it. And they really strive for it. They're also issued 2 pairs of standard Army shoes, not Corfams or patent leather, but you think they are when you see them, because they have to be taught how to polish the entire shoe, not just the toe, up to that level. They have to rebuild the shoes. They have to have the heels twice as thick as normal and the soles to help ward off the heat from the plaza during the summer months and to protect their feet during the winter from the cold. So they have to completely rebuild the shoes. Now, the shoes, when they're completed, being built the way they have to do, including the steel plates that go on the bottom, which, by the way, create those rust marks that you see on the plaza.
Okay.
That's every step. You can see every single step. They weigh 3.5 pounds each, and that's what they have to walk in. Now, the uniform itself keeps most of them from being able to advance, because even in boot camp, they're inspected, but not to the degree that they are before they guard the tomb. And that's one of the things that keeps them from making it. Move to the knowledge part. It used to be 17 pages. Now it's like, I think, 21 pages of detailed information about the cemetery, the history of the cemetery, the history of the tomb, history of the unknowns, and some other things that we don't know about, okay? They have to learn that word for word, including parentheses, quotation marks, commas, exclamation points, to be able to write it with a little more than 4 mistakes on each of the 5 tests. If they fail it, they go back into retraining. They fail it the second time, they're gone. Now, as far as their performance outside, you remember me saying earlier they don't see the light of day if they're in training until they reach a certain level. During the day, while the sentinels that have reached that level are guarding the tomb, they're down below the plaza in the catacombs, and the old mats that are changed twice a year. They change them just before Memorial Day, and they change it just before Veterans Day. The old mats are taken downstairs and put in the hallways of the catacombs, and you can see every step that's been taken over the time that mat's been there. That trains the guys and girls that are trying to become a tomb guard how big their steps have to be, because they have to hit those same steps, all 21 of them.
Those steps are created by those that have walked before them. They're not
Exactly.
They're not predetermined
That's
into
right.
the mat, but they are there from wear and tear.
That's right.
Okay.
And they have to know how big a step to take to hit that, and it's regardless of size. So they've got to learn how big their steps have to be for their size to hit that step.
So they have to adjust to the step.
Exactly.
The step isn't adjusting to them.
That's right. That's
so
right.
Does the soldier have to be of a certain size, certain height?
Yes, they have what we call 3 reliefs. Civilians would call it shifts. Each relief is made up of walkers that walk the mat with the rifle that has the bayonet. The changer, which is a more senior NCO, the walkers are the lower ranking NCOs. Once they reach E5, they start becoming a changer, and they don't walk the mat with the rifle, but they do have a pistol. They're the ones that actually change the guard. Then you also have a relief commander, which is a senior NCO. And then you have a sergeant of the guard, which is over all 3 reliefs. He's the top dog. You never see an officer walk the mat. It's always enlisted. Now, once they earn the right to walk the mat, the uniform they walk the mat with does not have any rank on it, because no one outranks the unknown.
Man, you talk about detail and thought through all the way.
Right. And they don't wear a name tag. Why should you know who they are if we don't know who the unknown is? So a lot of very serious stuff.
Yeah.
And the 21 steps is in replicate of the 21 gun salute. Their whole goal as a guard is to give as many 21s during their time they walk the mat as they possibly can to honor the unknown. And I think everybody that's gone there has seen them. What I'm getting ready to talk about is the time that somebody disrespects the tomb by going past the barrier or making too much noise. They will stop their walk, which they don't want to do because it cuts into the number of 21s they can give. They'll come to port arms with their rifle. They'll challenge the people to either get back behind the barrier or to get off the plaza or to be quiet. And then instead of getting right back on the mat where they came off, to complete their 21, they have to go all the way to the end of the mat and then continue from there. Now, not only is it 21 steps, but every time you see them stop, they have to wait 21 seconds before the next move. And they have to learn how to count that in seconds.
And I guess that's what they're trained and conditioned, that if they can't do that, they don't make the cut to get out there.
That's right, because every time a trainee is out there that they think is good enough to do it during the day, they have other guards up behind the crowd in a civilian attire because they don't want to just draw attention to them. So they have, usually it's khaki pants and a tomb guard shirt that has the tomb badge emblem on it. They've got a clipboard and they are evaluating that walker's walk. And when he comes back down after he's relieved, they get with him and they critique him. Now, if you're in training, you don't hear any positive reinforcement at all. It's all negative. Well, this was okay, but here's how you can do it better. And just when you think that you have reached that level, you haven't.
I can't afford to let them think that they've arrived at that level.
Exactly. And they don't get the information as to whether they passed each level of those 5 tests after they take the test. It may be later that evening before they're even told they passed. Now, while they're also in training, at night, they can go up on the plaza because nobody's there to see them. And the guard is still guarding the tomb because it's guarded 24/7. Now, they can walk right beside the guard that's actually walking the mat to practice everything with him and try to match what he's doing, the way they handle the rifle, the way they turn, the speed that they walk. Everything is preset and designed strictly for them. Nowhere else in the military is it done that way. It's just an incredible training period.
The back to the told story about a child got away from a mom.
Oh yeah.
And and the soldier came to the defense position, I will call it. So times where it just got so out of hand that the soldier actually had to take initiated action against somebody.
Oh yeah.
And how was that handled?
They are given certain things to say for certain situations. Like, for instance, if there's too much noise, he'll come off the mat, go to port arms, face the crowd, and in a very stern, but I would consider it militarily polite, a level of silence and respect is demanded here. And he'll stare right at who's doing it.
Which he's already mad anyway because he had to break the count. So, I mean, he's just mad when he says it.
And I've seen one of the women do it.
Yeah, or she.
And I wouldn't want to get her on my bad side.
Yeah.
And you asked a while ago about, I believe it was the women that we have, or the height requirements.
Yes.
They have the 3 different reliefs. The first relief are the shorter men, and they have to be a minimum of 5'10". Okay, I think theirs is 5'10" to 6 feet. For the second relief, it's usually around 6 foot to 6'2", and the third relief is 6'2" to 6'4".
Why the different heights for the
So when they change the guard during that relief period, they all look the same height.
Okay.
Otherwise, it would look like Mutt and Jeff.
Okay.
Now, as far as the women were concerned, the only concession they made for the women, other than this one concession, they have to do the same thing the men have to do, to the letter. But their minimum height is 5'10".
Okay.
And we've had, I think, now 6 women that have received the badge.
I guess they have security there that'll come take care of it.
Everything that happens on the plaza is seen on closed circuit TV downstairs by the ones that are on duty but not walking the mat, that are certified guards that have earned their badge. The way you can tell somebody is a fully certified sentinel and has passed everything. They wear the tomb guard's sterling silver badge of the tomb on their right breast pocket. If they're wearing that, they've successfully completed the training, which takes 6 to 9 months. If they're not wearing it, they are in training, but they've reached the level that they have the confidence in them to do it in front of the crowd.
They just haven't got there yet.
They're not quite there.
Okay. And they are the ones that will come up and get the crowd under control, or somebody's not being responsive to the guards'
If they
orders.
need that, they can have any number of soldiers up there in a very short period.
Time. Okay.
And to tell you how things really work so well up there, everything is well thought out. One summer there was a guard that the heat just got to him, and he was a certified sentinel. So they got to learn how to tolerate the heat so that they can make that walk.
Mm-hmm. And the guard the shifts are what, 2 hours? How are they?
No, during the spring and summer it's a 30-minute.
30-minute. Okay.
And then during the winter and the fall it's usually an hour.
Okay.
Now at night they can do anywhere from 2 hours up to a whole night if needed.
Okay. Because
sometimes they are actually short of having enough walkers on each of the reliefs because it's just so hard to get it.
Mm-hmm.
And so they will sometimes be called on to do more than their normal walk. But to show you an example, this guard during the summer, the heat got to him. He just knew he couldn't finish the walk. He went over to the little box that's over there. There's a little sentry box. It's got what they call the bat phone. He picks it up. It automatically rings downstairs. He says, I just can't make it. I'm going to pass out. That immediately tells the one that's supposed to come on next, you got 3 minutes to get dressed in your walk uniform and have your inspection and be up there. And it can happen.
Okay. That's why you're married to the tomb first.
That's right. Because when they're not walking, they don't get to go to sleep down there. They're on duty for 26 hours at a time. And they rotate walking every so often, depending on how many walkers there are.
So they're expected to be ready to go for a 26-hour straight stretch.
Right.
The physical demand.
They run basically a fireman's schedule now. They used to do 24 hours and then have so many days off. But now right now they're doing 26 hours on, 22 hours off, then 26 hours on, 22 off, 26 on, and then 3 days off. That sounds like great schedule for the 3 days off. But the ones that are being training at home, they're spending 8 hours a day at least working on their uniform, polishing their shoes, studying their knowledge. And then when they're back on duty, if they're not walking the mat downstairs in the catacombs, they may be good enough to do it upstairs. But when they get through that, they come down, they take their walking uniform off, put on another uniform with the knowledge that they might be called to do a 3-minute change of clothes, inspection, and get up.
Yeah, that if you're on 26, there's no sleep time. You just function.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, because it's kind of, you can compare it to a shift with the ambulance or the fireman, but they have at least the luxury to lay down or get a little sleep, and it doesn't sound like these guys do.
Yeah, right. I mean, they don't. There are beds down there because in case of emergency situations, a rotation or a relief could be told you're gonna work longer.
Yeah.
So they've got beds down there, but during their normal hours under normal situation, they don't use them. They don't even have linen on them.
All right, let's talk about the tomb itself, because one thing you said Thursday in your presentation, and I vaguely remember what you said, but it was something about the weight of the tomb. It was the heaviest transported by rail.
Right.
We had about 8-10 minutes. So talk about the design of the tomb and the tomb itself as far as the structure.
When they decided to build the tomb, the plans were to dig 6 feet down, so the soldiers actually buried in the ground. They had to tear up the steps there to create the grave. He's buried 6 feet below. After they buried him, they covered it with cement, and it stayed that way about a foot tall from the ground itself until 1931. Then they brought in this block that weighed like 70 tons when it was shipped from the the Yule Quarry in Marble, Colorado. And it was transported by rail in 1931. It stopped up in Vermont to have the columns on each end and in the middle carved there. And then it was brought to Arlington, placed on top of the tomb, and then the rest of it, everything you see on the outside was carved in place at Arlington Cemetery. And it ended up weighing, they estimate, about 57 tons. And to this date, it's considered the heaviest piece of marble ever shipped by rail.
I'm just trying to get my mind around, and this is on my bucket list. The one thing I want to do before I die, I want to go and watch. What about actually, and I know there are several out there that are listening that have actually been up there, but for those who haven't, can just anybody show up, or you got to get tickets, or what?
No, it's open to anybody that visits the cemetery.
Okay.
And annually, before the pandemic hit, they averaged about 5 million visitors a year to watch the changing of the guard. Now, the guards will tell you themselves, come see the changing of the guard. It's the greatest thing you'll ever see. Very carefully designed routine. But see beyond us, see through us, see to why we're here. It's to honor the unknown and the tomb.
How do you, anything else you want to share? We're down about 5 minutes. Anything else that you just think people really ought to know about it?
Well, the tomb is not just to represent honor to the unknowns, but tomb guards have a saying, and I think that would be an appropriate saying to sort of close with. A soldier never dies until he's forgotten. Tomb guards never forget. And with our project, we'd like to add one little part to it. Neither will we, because these folks, and what this represents, what the tomb represents, is the sacrifice that was made by the soldiers it represents, both unknown and known, so that we could enjoy the freedoms that we as Americans enjoy.
That unfortunately some are taking advantage of or forgotten, have turned their back on.
That's right. That's right.
Which is
because, and if you see people doing that, best thing to say to them, the people that you're turning your back on are the ones that gave you the right to do that.
My attitude's a little better. Why don't you just go move your citizenship to a third world country or Russia and see how that works out?
Want me to buy your ticket?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I think there'll be plenty of donors to take up money for you.
But the tomb is just an incredible thing to see. It should be on everybody's bucket list to visit, because when you see it, you come away with a completely different feeling.
And just seeing it in our rotunda, knowing it was a replica, was inspirational. I mean, of course, see the flags and the detail around. And even the other day, y'all went through the ceremony of the laying of the wreath.
Yes.
And you played the trumpet. And I want to commend you. You did a great job playing the trumpet. I think that it didn't have a mechanical sound piece in the end. You were the real deal, buddy.
Thank you.
And I want to tell you something. When that was echoing throughout, because we have the acoustics.
Right.
And when you stopped playing, it was like it continued to echo through the halls. You talk about putting chills up and down your back. That was just hard to describe what the experience was.
I would also like to say that this is a project of our Exchange Club. Exchange Club is 630 Exchange Clubs throughout the United States.
Okay.
And one of our pillars of service to the community is Americanism. And we really push that really hard. The Exchange Club is just an unbelievable service organization for every community that you have an Exchange Club. We work with child abuse programs. We work with community service. We have youth programs where the youth that participate, that win the different contests we have, can receive up to $15,000 in scholarships.
Okay. Listen, I'm down to like 2 minutes. I want to ask you two quick,
Sure.
simple questions. Where are you going to be next? Where'd the replica go
We
from
go
here?
back to Rome, and we're doing a presentation for the colonial dames of Georgia at our facility back in Rome.
Okay.
And we will be going as far west this year as California.
Okay.
We'll be in South Dakota. We'll be in Virginia.
Got a website?
Yes, sir. It's RomeExchangeClub.com.
There it is, RomeExchangeClub.com. And I'll get that up on my website for those of you that didn't get it, and then you can.
And they can
we
also
follow.
go to the Society of the Honor Guard, Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, and
Okay.
that's shgtus.com.
Okay.
And then look for activities or events, and it'll have us listed there.
Okay. One last question. How are you going to top this? I mean, you did a flag, you've done this. You already got another idea quickly?
I have an idea, but the chairman of the Americanism Committee wasn't real hot on it. I was suggesting the Washington Monument, but I don't think he wants to get a trailer that tall.
Well, that's what I thought about, or a replica of the White House, either one. So, Bill, thank you for being on the Kim Hammer Show. It's been a real honor to have you all the way from Rome, Georgia here, and thank you for what you do to keep patriotism alive and also to keep our thought process where they need to be for those that have served, of whose names we do not know, but we honor them today.
Well, it's an honor for me to be here and to have our project here for the DAR and for the community. And we want to thank the Capitol building for being so gracious and allowing us to put it there. It's a great location, and y'all are the very first state Capitol building we've been in.
We made history.
There you go.
Thanks for listening to the Kim Hammer Show. Hope you have a great day. www.thekimhammershow.com to hear this replayed. We'll look forward to you being back next Saturday. We'll be back in the political routine of interviewing candidates from around the state that are running for respective state offices or local offices. So hope to have you back with me next Saturday. In the meantime, have a great Saturday, and thank God for those that have served and given their lives, even whose names we may not know, but we recognize them and honor them today on the Kim Hammer Show.